Okay, before we go to Mark, this is said, I listened to your episode 477, and you said, to God the nation of Israel was his bride, to whom he betrothed, one to whom he was married, and he says, and now one to whom he granted a bill of divorcement. He said, I said this. I did. He did. And he says, please tell me where this idea is found in Scripture. He said, you mentioned Exodus, but divorce is not used there. Okay? And then he gives a message, and it says, be mindful of God's covenant and the word which was commanded to 1,000 generations, even to the covenant which he made with Abraham, with his oath with Isaac, which he had confirmed to the same to Jacob for the law, and to Israel for an everlasting covenant. So he cites that passage and says, God has covenanted with Israel to make Israel his bride, and he's covenanted an everlasting covenant. And he says, what is an everlasting covenant? Do you believe God broke the everlasting covenant he made with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob? If that statement is true, God is a covenant breaker and cannot be trusted. Well, let me try to explain. When God made a covenant with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, when he made it with the house of Israel, it was conditional. It was predicated on obedience. That's what makes the covenant of grace different, because it isn't predicated on our obedience. It was predicated on Christ's obedience. But with the nation of Israel, it was predicated on a mutual agreement of them coming together. And God says, I will be your God, you will be my people. I will be like a husband to you. That's the imagery we get. And you will be my bride. Let's go forward. But Israel was not obedient. Israel was a terrible bride. And God said, I'm tired of it. So you wanted to know where, let's see, Jeremiah 3:8. I looked this up right before the show. Jeremiah 3:8 is where God explains what he did. And it says, and I saw when for all the causes of backsliding, Israel committed adultery, and I had her put away and given her a bill of divorce. It's right there in Scripture. So the question is, if he gave her a bill of divorce and he also gave her an eternal covenant, what he said, an everlasting covenant, did God break his covenant? I would say no, and I'll tell you why. I think he gave her a bill of divorce and she reaped the harvest of that divorce, but God is faithful. I personally believe that all of Israel has been redeemed. I believe all of Israel will be redeemed by and through God's covenant with Israel. He does not fail where men fail, okay? But that does not mean he didn't grant her a bill of divorce for her adulterous behavior. And it's right there in Jeremiah 3, verse 8. So check that out yourself if you want to test that reference.